get your exercise in. As you were speaking, Shane, one thing that came to my mind, I have a friend who's really he's posting out some home workouts that he's been trying. So my point is, let's try something new. You never know what you'll discover with your workout routine. So as for tips, one is not as bad where we are yet. Obviously, it's gonna come. I mean, you you're from Argentina, or you're not there yet, but I heard that they're pretty tight on the restrictions now. I mean, it's getting so around the world. But that these are the tips that I have generally. So
What about yoga? Do you guys practice yoga? Because I'm not a yoga person, but seems like this kind of circumstance is uh, yoga or studying yoga. I don't would be
that's a good
kind of
idea.
like a good idea because my idea is that yoga doesn't take much space other than your yoga mat, right? Am I
Mhm.
correct about that?
Yeah, it doesn't take. Well, I don't know if Shane wants to say anything.
Well, I would say that any kind of new habit that you're interested in kind of pursuing, this is a great time to try it out. And like Craig was saying, there's a lot of time in the day and there's a lot of flexibility now because most people are home that they can, instead of doing the normal thing, which is you go to the gym for an hour and the rest of the day you're at work or whatever, like you could kind of do stuff all day long. I actually had a client that I was on the phone with yesterday, like a training client, and we were doing some grease the groove programming. So like every hour he's going to get up and do like 5 minutes of something, so that way he's not sitting all day just like online. So we came up with a push-up plan. So he's just going to, every hour he's going to do a couple push-ups all day long, and we'll see how he does. If he's doing too many or too few, he can change the number. And then if he's home for 2 or 3, 4 weeks, it depends, then he can build over time, but that way he doesn't, it's not all or nothing. And one of the things that he's working on is a lot of mobility and stretching. So he's also going to be doing these little breaks throughout the day. So instead of trying to do like an hour of stretching at the end of the day, he's going to do a little bit here, a little bit there. So that way he's not in the chair, for 8 hours straight. And I've been kind of playing with that the last week or two, and I found I actually feel a lot better because every hour or so I'm taking 5 or 10 minutes, I'm getting some movement, I'm stretching, it wakes me up, I get a little motion, but I'm not getting tired like I would if I went and trained really hard. But you're right, Alejandro, it's like no space, no equipment. If you have a mat or even a towel or a blanket or something, you put it on the floor, and there's tons of yoga stuff on
Tutorial.
YouTube and all those places, and it would give you a great way to slowly, like you could even start tomorrow morning and do a couple poses and see how you do. And if you did them every day, oh my goodness, over the
I'm
course of the
the
month,
least
you get
flexible
so
person.
good. So yeah, I think it's a great way to try some new stuff, and you can do it, every day or a little bit over the course of the day. And it's kind of a great way to try something out without having, like, normally I'd be like, oh, go sign up for yoga class, and it's like an hour long. You might get 10 minutes into it and be like, oh my God, but right now you could just do 10 minutes and then stop and then see how you feel. So I don't know, Craig,
Do
do you have
you?
any ideas? Craig's a super smart guy. He knows all kinds of stuff. So I always like to ask and get his opinion.
I'm average. I'm average. Um, I mean, especially the guys who are staunch gym people. I mean, yoga really helps open that body up because a lot of people, when I used to go to the gym a lot, now not as consistently, but you gain a lot of strength as Shane knows since he's a trainer. I'm assuming Alan enjoys one as well. Um, but in the gym, you gain a lot of strength, but a lot of it is kind of positional, like in certain movements, right? Again, it depends on your training and really how effective your routine is. But basically, the point of yoga is really to help loosen up the muscles, the body, and increase and get more flexibility. So my point is, a lot of people in the gym, even if they're very strong and it's working for them, they're not that flexible. So trying yoga for one by force, if you want to put it that way, is actually a pretty good. It's actually a pretty good idea. I mean, you don't have to stick to it. Just try it. Maybe like Shane said, try a YouTube video. Or if you really want to go for it, try a YouTube, try a yoga program somewhere. You know, and if one doesn't want to do yoga, the other thing I'm thinking is that Shane or Alejandro, you guys might be trainers, so you'll answer me afterwards. Um, do you need a mobility coach as well? Because I've seen some people they have like physical conditioning coaches, like exercise, and others have stretching and mobility coaches as well. What is your opinion on that? Anyone?
Yeah, well, I can jump in. I was going to a circus school the last few months, which they're closed right now, so I can't go. But I originally went in to take a hand balancing class because I've always wanted to do a handstand. And I mean, I can do it against a wall, but I want to do freestanding, and I don't know how to do it, so I need a coach. And the teacher there also teaches a flexibility class. And one of the things that she told me is if you're not flexible enough to do certain movements, it's going to make things like handstands really hard. So rather than focusing on like getting stronger to be able to hold the handstand, which was my initial thought, she's like, you would do better if you got more flexible, because then it would be easier to get into the position. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. So I went in and took the class, and I was really surprised. I was more fatigued after the flexibility class than I was the handstand class, because it was so much work for my body to move into these positions, A, that I don't normally do, but B, to hold them for a really long time. Because a true flexibility class, like you're in the pose for at least a minute straight. And especially if, if it's like one leg for a minute and then you do the other leg, well, really that's like 2 minutes at least, And so I'm like holding myself and my arms would get tired. And, but I feel so much better. And she's right. When I then take the handstand class, I can move easier. And it's not necessarily mobility. So the difference between, if you don't know, so mobility is the complex movement patterns of the body. So like doing a squat is a mobility movement because you're moving your ankles, your knees, your hips, there's back flexion, there's all this stuff going on simultaneously. Flexibility is the individual parts and how far their range of motion is. So if you're stretching your right hamstring, depending on how far you can go, that's the flexibility of that one leg. But doing, a handstand or something, that depends on the mobility of like your shoulders. So one's more, so think mobility is movement and flexibility is more kind of like a static, position. So in that regard, I would say that getting someone to work with, whether it's Pilates or like a yoga class or something, would probably do you well, if nothing else, to teach you how to do it, and then you can practice it on your own. Because that was the other point that my instructor said, is she goes, first couple of classes, she's getting to know me, and she's like, did you learn how to do handstands on YouTube? And I said, yes. And she's like, don't ever do that. Because she's like, you have bad habits. You learned how to do it wrong. And now I have to teach you what not to do. And then you have to remember to do it the new way, as opposed to defaulting to like the way you've been doing it for 30 or 60 days, which was wrong. So I think that, sometimes it's a little expensive to hire somebody, or especially now, maybe it's inconvenient, but maybe you could have someone do like a video call and they could kind of teach you the right way. And then you could be starting off with like good position and good habits. But yeah, that was definitely helpful for me. But yeah, I think Alejandro, like starting with yoga or any kind of movement practice, I know you also like meditation. It's very mindful and it's very good stress relief and relaxation. I mean, if you're trying really hard, then maybe not. But if you can kind of flow into the movements, you might find that there's a lot of kind of inner, help from that as well, from being able to calm down and breathe and kind of get into this flow, as well as like the way it makes you feel, in your body.
Yeah, personally, I had a very brief yoga experience, because personally my problem is that I'm not very flexible, which is I think the one of the main ingredients of yoga. So if you're not very flexible, you may probably not, you're not gonna like yoga very much, like in my case. So I cannot sit on the flat floor, you know, for the basic yoga posture. Uh, so that for me is the kind of an inconvenience. However, I do enjoy some movements or exercises, like especially stretching. I think it's always feel good after stretching. You know, even with without the yoga discipline, just stretching is I think is good for your body. So, starting from there, I think I can escalate to something more eventually. But definitely, yeah, yoga I think is a good option. Um, uh, I don't think that having a coach, a yoga coach, other than to teach you the, the transitions, I don't think that is mandatory to practice yoga, especially if it's basic. I think I know you said, Shane, that there are a lot of bad teachers or people who teach you uh, stuff that is not the correct one. But still, I think you can find apps and other resources that would give you a good idea to get started in the right way.
Yeah. Um, um, I agree. I mean, basically, you don't have to go full blown into yoga, especially if it's not really. I mean, it depends on your goals, your fitness goals, you know. And like I said, typically the people, like you said, who have the hardest time transitioning into it are people who are very physically strong, that they're actively in the gym, and their muscles are very developed in a particular area, and that might be good if that's what they want. But when they try to transition, they'll get it, but slowly it'll take a while, but it actually helps them get stronger because their muscles are not as stiff, you know. So, well, what I've been doing personally is that I've been trying to get into some more stretching. I've done beach bodies programs like Sean T and the others. So, in terms of the exercises, I'm quite familiar with really hard stretching and all the dynamic movements. I mean, I've done a lot of my own sessions, but I've taken all the programs. So, really, now I'm kind of getting back into the basics, and I got this book. Let me put in the chat. I got this book recently. Just came out to just get some of the basic stretches in consistently because for the work that I do right now, I sit a lot and I don't like that. And so for me, like I was saying, you don't have to full blown go into yoga if it's not your thing. You could try a session a week. You could try a yoga session a month just to get that little bit of flexibility. Go going back in between hard sessions, and you could do some stretching as well, like some extra stretching, maybe before a workout. I mean, I know you do the typical stretching before working out and whatnot, but like just some deep stretching, that really helps as well. So that's what I would say.
I think the main thing for everyone, and I was talking to Alejandro earlier actually, is that I'm not as affected with this big transition because I've been working at home for this is my second year working from home, so I don't have that kind of daily commute anymore, and it's funny how much time you spend doing like all this just stuff. You gotta get ready, you get in the car, you drive somewhere, you park, you walk across the lot, you settle into work, you work for a couple hours, you go to lunch, you come back, and then you stop and do errands on the way home. And like by the time you get home, it's like all I did was wake up and leave, and now it's time to have dinner, you know, like the whole day's over. And then when you're home, you realize like, oh, that hour commute and then the 30 minutes of getting ready and the lunch break and all that stuff, it's now, those things are minutes instead of hours. And you suddenly find you have a lot more time. And it was difficult for me at first to kind of adjust to, you know, I felt like, well, whether I'm coaching or I'm working a project or something, like I should be working 8 hours, you know? And when I thought about it, I was like, well, even when I was at work, I wasn't really working 8 hours. A lot of my time was downtime, or you're waiting for somebody.
But you're still at work, right?
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
come home.
Yeah. So I realized though that, you know, I had a lot of meetings or a lot of phone calls or a lot of paperwork or a lot of, you know, waiting for somebody, or I had to walk over to meet somebody. So half my workday was me kind of waiting for things to happen or waiting for other people or what have you. And so I wasn't like working for 8 hours straight. So when I first started working from home last year, that was a big transition to let myself know that I don't have to be going 100 miles an hour, 8 hours a day. Sometimes I might get everything done in 2 or 3 hours, and that's everything. And now I'm just waiting for people to get back to me the next day or what have you. So kind of building habits and ensuring, like Rick was saying, like I think it's really helpful to start some routines and set yourself up for success, whether it's movement, stretching, training, you know, internet, working on a project, getting some work done, ensuring that you have a lunch break. That was a big thing for me. At first, I would start getting into stuff, and all of a sudden, I'd be so hungry, and I realized like, oh, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I forgot to have a lunch break. So I had to like remind myself, part of my day is I'm going to treat this like work, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to eat, and I'm going to be ready to go at like 8 o'clock. And then at noon, I'm going to stop, because if I was at work, I'd have a lunch break. And so I'm going to treat my day, whether I'm at the office or at home, and have some structure. And that really helped me a lot, because I'm really good at like different zones. And so it's like, oh, so I'm at work until noon, and then it doesn't matter if I'm home or at the office or anywhere, that's my lunch hour. And then I'm going to come back. And so that really helped me. But I think a lot of people are kind of in these transitions, especially if you've never worked from home before. And it's going to be, you know, a little bit like grinding, finding the right gear until they figure out like, where in my house do I work? I don't have a home office necessarily. Or, you know, how do I do all the things I need to do because I haven't set the system up yet? So kind of giving yourself some time, allowing yourself to figure that out, I think is helpful, because it can be a little stressful, these transitions. I
Do
don't
you
know.
enjoy working from home?
I do very much, and it was difficult for me to kind of step away from the office. I worked for like 8 years at an office, and the first couple of weeks were me figuring all that stuff. But now I'm in my second year, and it's I would much rather work from home now than have to commute to the office and all that kind of thing. But one of the things that was also hard for me is that being an outdoor person and being an active person was I had to remind myself, go outside at some point, because otherwise I would just get up and work and then have dinner. And I'm like, oh, I didn't go outside yesterday, you know? And so reminding myself to do some of those things so that I could feel kind of sane, you know, and as a whole person, really complete in myself, not just the work person or the project person, you know, or the husband, but also like, oh, the active person. So it's helpful for me to remember, like, I'm going to read every day. I'm going to get some movement in every day. I'm going to go outside every day. Those are all important aspects of me working from home, even though they're not necessarily part of my like quote unquote work day. I don't know, Craig, if you have any thoughts or ideas, like, because you work remotely a lot and you have a lot of remote clients too. So I'm sure you've developed some habits and systems for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I just started. Um, it wasn't as much as of a steep transition as it would be for most people, because I think I've always been decently looking independently. so that wasn't like bad. But for someone who's trying it out or who's not as used to it, um, one thing that I've found helps or helps now that I actually found it recently, and if I just started, I probably would have started with that, is have some kind of scheduled social interaction while you're working. So, for example, I'm not sure if I've mentioned here before, there's an application called Smith. You guys might know it. I might put the link in the chat. And basically, what it does is that it's basically other people who are working, whether it's at co-working space or from home, and you guys basically time your sessions. So before you start working, you just meet, just like a meet and greet, just to get familiar. But during the work session, you're keeping each other accountable. So that is a good stepping stone for someone who's just started, right? So if you're more experienced like Shane and you're pretty used to it, um, the beautiful thing is that you have done start your own routines. I mean, we know life happens. Sometimes we may have tasks for the morning and something happens and we have to go to get groceries or we have to go to get something that ran out. And then you have to just put that in your day, you know? Or sometimes something happens to the internet and maybe you have to start an hour later than normal. So my point is though that those interruptions, having a routine, having flexibility that allows you to cater to those interruptions, and it also allows you, which is the best part, to cater your lifestyle towards you and you only. One thing I don't like about 9 to 5 or really working in that mode of structure is that you always have one particular time slot and you have to obey that no matter what. And that's fine if that's how you work, right? Meaning, if you're a morning person, right? I know some people, they they're like night owls and they're really good at what they do. I mean, we know our body clocks and whatnot, and that changes. And sometimes you may not be as much of a morning person, or sometimes you may not want to have lunch at 12, for example, right? And lunch hour is at 12. So my point is that being able to really customize your day and getting good at really avoiding distractions really is what makes it good. I mean, if you're good at what you do, getting clients, whatnot, that's obvious. But if you can get around making it comfortable for you, right? I mean, even taking a nap, like 15, 20 minutes, maybe during lunch hour or something, that's fine too. So really, um, I mean, the tips I would offer is to make it work for you and don't be afraid to do something that's unconventional. You know, if you want to start at 10, start at 10. If you want to end later, end later. If you want to, for example, one thing I try to do now, moving towards it, is I try to work without the internet up until 12 p.m. Now, some people may think that's crazy, but I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of I mean, whether it's emails, whether it's sales pages and I'm practicing. You know, so for me, I have more of a what is the maker schedule, if you guys are familiar with that literature. You know, I need to create a lot more. Yes, I coach, but for me, it's important that I get my work in and then I turn the internet on. I'm just giving you guys an example just to put some context there. So my point is though, whoever you are, maybe you are a personal trainer and you train athletes. So some people might, let's say in the morning, they go train, and you know during the time when you train, I know I'm talking for a while, but sometimes in midday you might have a break, right? And some people that's the time that they have to just do something else. So my point is, no matter what that routine is for you, you just have to customize it. So I know I said a lot, but that's really how I would best put for anyone starting out or anyone who really is comfortable but wants some extra customization.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to leave the conversation. I'm so sorry. I really am enjoying this, but I had to join the human potential class that I already started.
Oh, no
So,
worries. I'm glad you could make it, and yeah, go get in your class.
all right, thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah, Craig, I think you're really right. The it's like diet or exercise. You know, if someone really loves to run, and someone else really loves to lift weights, you can't tell them both to do the same program because they're different, you know. So yes, especially adjusting out of the office into home, or you know, I know a lot of people, you know, they have kids and their kids are home all day now because the schools have been closed. And so obviously, like, they can't do things the way they used to. So giving yourself, I think, permission to experiment and try different systems and say, well, 2 weeks ago, I used to do it like this, and you know, everything's different. So now I have to find a different way. And I'm really happy you shared the Focus Mate. I'm not familiar with that one. I used to do this timer app. I can't remember what it's called, but
I experimented with it for a while. I'm not using it right now, but they're really, really good. First of all, I love the concept, obviously. It was new to me. Um, I mean, I've worked alongside people from South Korea, from China, from Iran, from Argentina, from Brazil. You get the idea, all around the world. They're basically randomly pairing you. The concept is nice, and for someone, because some people, the reason why working home at home doesn't work for them, and I completely understand, is because they have an extroverted personality. Obviously, I don't know. Maybe your spouse is like that. Mine was not together anymore. Mine was. So I can tell you, some people, it didn't work for them, and that's fine. So it's really a good stepping stone into it. But sometimes the bad thing about working from home, like you can't always alone. So having somebody like it's like even sessions like these, they help break that social isolation. And I mean, even if you're going outside, you're not really connecting with anybody. So even just seeing somebody, meeting somebody new, it adds something new to your day. So what I was saying was that I tried for a while, I liked it, but for me, I wanted to control the structure of the sessions. I'm just saying me. You could try it if you want, but I wanted to like the session's only 15 minutes, but I didn't always want to look for 15 minutes. So it's cool. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
well, the thing that I would touch on that you just said is, yeah, maintaining that social interaction is really important. And I think this is a great time to reach out to people. Like, even if you haven't talked to someone in a long time, it's a great way to be like, hey, I just want to check on you. You know, how's your family? You know, I used to live all over the place, so I have a lot of people, you know, back in New York or overseas, and you know, you just mentioned all those countries, and I've been pretty vagabond most of my life, where I was like here for a couple of years and there for a couple of years and blah blah blah. So it's been really good for me to connect with people I haven't talked to in a while. And one of the things I've been doing is, if I go out and go for a walk, we just moved into this apartment complex, and I can just walk a lap like in the complex. I don't even have to go outside the, you know, the gate. So it's a small community, and generally during the day, there's nobody outside. So I get a chance to go for a walk, and I'll call somebody. And because everyone's home now, most people are able to answer the phone. And so it gives me a chance to have a walk, but feel like I'm talking to somebody. And I can kind of do the two things at once. But also things like this where you get to see each other. Yeah, I think you're right. It's really important, because otherwise, if people are used to being gone all day, they could go a little stir crazy, especially if they live by themselves, because all of a sudden, all they had was YouTube all day or whatever, you know, it's not the same. So, uh,
Yeah, because on the news today or yesterday, I heard someone speaking about people being concerned about their mental health, about being at home for 2 weeks. And I'm like, 2 weeks? A lot of people actually work from home. I mean, doesn't mean you're literally at home for 2 weeks, but my point is, I mean, you ain't gonna die. I mean, there are plenty of things to do. But I mean, I understand. Like I said, some people it's not natural, especially if you have more of an extroverted personality. Or I was talking to a prospective client recently. Uh, I won't reveal it too much, but he ended up getting a divorce because he had a knack for travel. He travels every 2 weeks, and his wife just couldn't stand the routine. You know. So my point is, some people I was saying how working from home now it feels like a prison, and I'm like, I can empathize with him because if someone is always on the go, it's not natural for them. So my point is, I understand it doesn't work well for anybody, but when people say that, when you talk about mental health, I'm like, that's a bit of an extreme. I'm what of people by prison? I'm like, but anyway, I don't want to go too far. I'm just making a point.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But I think it's a great opportunity for people to have some downtime. You know, most of us we're just working and working and working, and part of dealing with the stress and dealing with the unknowns and dealing with the changes is saying it's okay to take a day or two or three and sleep in. You know, like you said, maybe you start work at 10 o'clock. You don't need to get up at 6 every day. You know, this is a big change for a lot of people, you know, or like Alejandro, like, okay, try some yoga. Maybe you've never done it before, but this is a perfect opportunity to try and see if it'll fit into your life. Or, you know, read that book you've been wanting to read for the past year and you haven't gotten to it, you know. I have a friend of mine who is talking about he's been wanting to do some research on some different ways of doing some things. And he's like, oh, it's been on my list for months. And he's like, so I started doing it because I have the time. And he's like, I'm probably going to get it done sooner now than I would have if I started 6 months ago, because 6 months ago I would have done an hour once a week. And he goes, now I can do an hour every day and I'll get the same amount of time in like 1 week as opposed to 6 months. And so in a way, he's going to move forward a lot faster than if he didn't have this opportunity. So yes, there's some difficulties and some worries, and it is a serious situation, but at the same time, I think there is some positives if people would allow themselves to kind of change their perspectives.
Yeah, I think the last thing you said, right, about changing their perspectives. I mean, nothing's wrong with working in an office. I mean, I will try soon a lot more of a co-working space as well. I mean, it has benefits. Working in a group has benefits as well. Instead of just switching your environment, sometimes working from the same place, you're not as creative. So that kind of joins the brain, if you will. So I mean, it's it's pretty useful, and that is one part of it most people just don't get at first. You know, at first they don't get it. You know, even like the time that you go to the gym, right? Some people they could only go to the gym in the evening because that's what their schedule allows. And if it works for you, fine, but it doesn't always work for everybody, and they end up making excuses. So my point is, you can customize your day to your living situation, and that's for me is an advantage that I like. And for me, I mean, like you said at the beginning, um, we don't realize how much time we waste. The commute, well, you still dress to begin working, but the meals, right? The meetings, the this, the that, traffic. I mean, I don't even mention that. So, I mean, basically, studies show that we spend 70% of our lives working, right? Generally, and I mean that's a lot of time. So it depends on what makes you happy, what truly you enjoy. But for me, I believe in the ability to have the choice. So I mean, that's why I like it. Apart from just being able to do it, that's one thing I like about it. And yeah, I wouldn't trade for a lot of things.
So I got a message, Ben said he's getting off his call soon, but I don't know, he hasn't jumped in yet. I have to go in about 10 minutes because my wife is going to be doing a class about, it's 6:30 for my time. But I just really thought it was great to see, at least locally here where I am, that most people are handling this really well and they're going kind of above and beyond to be really patient and helpful with each other. And I actually had to go, so we've just moved and I have to get a new license because I'm in a different state and new license plates on the car and all that stuff. And the DMV actually called me and said, hey, we did your license incorrectly, so we need you to come in. We're only taking people by appointment so that people are going in basically one at a time into the DMV. And they said, can you come in like right now? And I was like, well, I can come in an hour. And they're like, okay, come in an hour and then just tell them the supervisor said to come in. So I went over there and there was a line of like 50 people standing outside. They had security and like the building was closed and all that. And I just went up and was like, Tracy, the supervisor told me I need to come in. And they're like, okay. And they escorted me in. It was the fastest, easiest trip to the DMV I've ever had in my life. You know, normally you go stand in line for like
Right,
5
everyone
hours.
look forward to it.
And, you know, they all had gloves on. They were very careful and they were super helpful. Everyone was very polite and very nice and calm. And they handled all of my stuff. And, you know, they wished me well and said to take care of myself and all that. And it was just really nice to see, you know, the DMV does not have the best reputation. Everyone makes fun of it. Everyone's slow. It's always terrible. And to go and see that they were being super safe, they were being super helpful. And I just walked out there just thinking like, wow, what a great experience. Like surprisingly good experience, not just in general, but also specifically because, you know, the current situation, everyone's normally stressed out and short-tempered and, you know, thinking of themselves. And it was just really nice to see that. And I've talked to some friends and they've all had similar experiences like that. So I think it's really nice that kind of people as a whole, generally speaking, in times of crisis, will come together and be helpful and kind of rise to the occasion. And so I would hope that everyone has similar experiences no matter where they are. And I think it's helpful to kind of share those stories as well so that we all know like, okay, there's some things going on. They may not be the way that we want, or things aren't getting handled the way that we would like. But generally speaking, people are people and we all want the best for each other. I don't know if you've had any good stories.
Um, well, one that comes to mind for me, it's just, I mean, just being able to go away for more than one day in a row. I mean, I haven't shared this with anybody, but I've, I mean, when we had to go, we had an emergency. We had to travel to another island. And, we were expecting I had to go to another island. It was an emergency, and I had to be away for a while. And being flexible in that regard, it made that easy. I mean, just get the papers together and leave there next day. And I mean, I remember if you had to complete the processes, fax information, the letters, you know, the normal rigmarole of any workplace, that would have just been a headache. So that comes to mind, and not just in time, but in just how money is spent, you know. So um, yeah, that's the one that stands out pretty much to me, you know. I mean, for everybody listening, especially on the replay, I mean, it's not that you have to go and away from home, but you have to understand that one, you will mind. Two, there are benefits doing both, right? Three, you really need to appreciate your need for time and flexibility. It helps you appreciate that, even if maybe you do it temporarily, or you just your first experience is this outbreak right now. It will help you appreciate that um, having time to really work with what you want to do. It's important, and when you have that time, whatever your schedule, just make the most of it and don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. And I think that that's one of the good things that come out of bad situations where there's this or anything else is it's like when you're sick, you know, when you're healthy, you have all these things that you wish would happen or you wish wouldn't happen. And then you get sick and you're like, oh, if only I would feel better. That's all that matters, you know? And then for a few days, at least you're very appreciative. Like, oh, I don't have a headache. This is great. Or, oh, I can eat without throwing up. This is great. Or like I can breathe normally. This is great. And then it kind of wears off and you go back into, you know, why is all this stuff not the way I want it? So yeah, I think it's really helpful to reframe things and be like, my family's okay, my friends are okay, everything else I can figure out later. And it does reprioritize those things. So I see that Ben said he finished his call. He's just listening in. But I do want to ask Ben, did you have anything before we wrap up in the next few minutes? You want to jump in? Okay. I'm just going to check my messages. James says hi to everyone. Sorry I couldn't make the call. And I know that he had just traveled across the country and come back, so he was ordered to stay home and not go to the office. So, but I think his office is actually still open. So hopefully he's settling into working from home, because I know that's a change for him too. So we do have some people scheduled for April and May. And to do a quick preview of upcoming speakers. Oh, and Craig, I did want to take you up on your offer. If you know anyone that is interested in coming on as a guest expert for future calls, you know, just have them contact me, or you can give me their email and I can kind of send them the information. But in April, we have Doka, who is, I think she was on the last call, just as listener. And
the tattoo lady, the one with the tattoo?
Which one?
Was it the lady with the tattoo? I remember she had a tattoo.
Yes, yes. She and a woman named Jennifer are going to be on in April. And then James, who is not on the call tonight, he's going to be doing a presentation in May. And then we have another 2 or 3 people. They haven't confirmed with their dates yet, but we have someone who's going to be talking about international business, someone who's going to be talking about aromatherapy and herbal therapy and herbal health. I'm not sure what James is going to present on. We have a success coach who's coming on. We have a speaking coach who also works on messaging and how to fix your messaging so you can get your message out properly. So there's just a couple of people who are going to be coming on in kind of April and May. But as I said, some of them haven't confirmed what date they're going to be on, so I'm not sure the order. But that'll hopefully give us all some good information and some good new connections. And then, as I said, if you know anyone, you know, feel free to invite them to come on and listen to a call, or if they'd like to come on and do a presentation, you know, we'd love to have a couple people. We always like to book a month or 2 in advance so we have some people lined up. And that also gives them time to like write their blog post and get to know us, and also be on a call beforehand so they can kind of listen in.
I do actually. I do have quite a few people. Yeah, I'll be sending some names. Yeah, quite a few people. That's
yeah,
great.
Perfect. And I'd like to invite you to, I got a good piece of advice. I'm in a training program right now. They were talking about LinkedIn, and they said that it's LinkedIn connects with Google really well, so it helps to bring content up higher in search ratings. So one of the things they suggested is taking like old blog posts that you might have on your own personal blog or somewhere else, and then kind of update or rewrite them, because they do need to be different, but then to post them as LinkedIn articles. And not only does it then repurpose some of your old content and get it out to new people, but part of the LinkedIn articles is you get to see the demographics of all the people who have read the article or looked at it. And it breaks it down by like what industry they're in, what region they're from, their age group. So you can see like, oh, a lot of students are reading this, or a lot of executives are reading this, or, oh, people from overseas are reading this, or people from the New York City area. And so it helps to give you some good information on like how to target what you're writing, because it might hit those people. And I really liked the article you shared with me. And I'm basically taking my old blog posts from last year that are on the Solve Network, and I'm rewriting them and updating them. And then every week I'm going to post them as LinkedIn articles. So they'll kind of get a second life, and they'll also get new people to see them. So if that's something you're interested in, then, you know, let me know whenever you have a new article out. I'd love to read more of your stuff, and then I can also like share them or, you know, like them or what have you.
I've got quite a few, and I mean, something I haven't been doing as much as I should probably. Repurposing them onto LinkedIn. You don't have to change. You have to change. I kind of, like you said, change it slightly, even shorten it. It depends. But yeah, yeah. I think Ben is there. But before Ben jumps in, one more thing, since you're on this topic of January, we're just speaking. For anybody listening, in a time like this, where the news, all the hysteria, the wars in the country, and China or the extinct animals are fighting back, all this drivel that you hear on the news, you have to remember that as an individual, it's a time that your leadership ability will be tested as a parent, if you are, as the head of a household, maybe your spouse or those that depend on you or around you, in the community, church, whichever domain that you serve in, and you have to not break. One thing that we always forget, and I've done a lot of media, and I really know I've been privileged to have a lot of insight into just the business of media itself, not just the media. A lot of it is just it's a business. When you really begin to understand how to make their money, you'll see that yes, what they report is factual, more or less, but it's sensationalized. So see things for what they are, but don't let it stress you to the point that you're so worried. I understand it's natural when you see things that seem like ungiven, but at the same time, see this crisis as something that will pass, and also see it as something that is just another story to tell your grandkids. I said that in an email I think yesterday, and yeah, there's like some people going for World War I, World War II. I mean, the Corona War, if you want to put it that way. I mean, it's taken lives. There has almost never been a particular event that has literally shut down the entire world. We're literally almost in a recession. Yes, countries, bailouts, we'll see how effective it is. But as an individual, you're never too small to really understand how important your role is, and in a crisis like this, I mean, the news is more negative than it is positive. Remember that people are looking at you, whoever you are, parent, spouse, older brother, older sister, church leader, you know, Facebook group owner, you know, whoever you are, be an example, and it starts with you. That's the extra thing.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I think that's a great message. And I am going to start having my wife be on her class on the other side of the room. So I'm going to end the call. Ben, did you have anything before we sign off? I hear him typing, so. Well, I just thank you all for coming on. I'm glad Alejandro could come on a little bit and meet everyone. And I just got to know him recently, so I wanted to invite him to join. And I apologize for forgetting to record. I'm usually in Ben's room and he starts the recording. So this will be a short recording, but I'll send it out to everyone. And hopefully they can enjoy some of our tips and thoughts on transitioning to working from home and dealing with stress and still getting some exercise in, and changing habits and experimenting with new ways to do things. Craig, I think you had a lot of great ideas, and I'm going to check out the Focus Mate. And yeah, I just wish everyone well. Look for the good. It is out there. Stay connected with people. Try to figure out a new way to maintain all the things that you've been doing before, and embrace the opportunities of like Craig said, you don't have to sit in traffic right now, so that might give you an extra hour or even 2 a day that you can read or spend more time with your kids or whatever it might be. So thank you all for joining. I wish everyone well. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be having our next call, which will be the first call in April. And that is the Thursday the 2nd. So hopefully I'll stay in touch with you all. And if I don't talk to you, then have a great couple of weeks and we'll speak again soon.